Hands on deck with evil dead chick. What's in store when you open the door? Step inside, my little ones. Bring your flashlight and good luck charms. Oh, and good luck charms. Oh. Might get dark. It might get scary. Maybe even a little insane. Crawl out from under the bed. Don't be afraid. Evil Dead Chick is here to entertain and thrill. Deadites on deck with Evil Dead Chick. Let's hang out till the sun comes up.
VHS attacks in your living room. Creepy little gremlins oozing slime in your VCR. Stacks of films to frighten and entertain, hiding in your closet and duplicating on your shelves. It's time to watch. It's time to be scared. Don't look behind you. It's a mess back there. It's a VHS overload. Don't look behind you. It's a mess back there. It's a VHS overload. Oh, 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 oh.
Hey gang, and welcome to another edition of VHS Overload. This episode, I'm going to be talking about some of my fave horror VHS covers from 1985. So we're going to get to that here in just a little bit. But as usual, I'd like to get a few housekeeping things out of the way. I want to invite you guys and gals to hop on over to deaditesondeck.com, my horror shop. Tell them Poe sent you. Poe is, of course, the official mascot of the Deadites on Deck horror shop. I have t-shirts, I have hats, I have mouse pads, I have tote bags, I have blended teas, I have candles. Booga Booga Bears, Pyro plushies are still going to soon be making their way to the shop. And again, that address is deaditesondeck.com. If you remember my channel name, you're going to remember the shop name. So head on over to the site and take a look at what I have. If you're not a horror fan, or you're a horror fan and you don't see the design that you want, hey, I do custom work, folks. And all you got to do is fill out this handy dandy form that's on the homepage of the shop. Let me know what it is you so desire. I can even do logos for a side business, a new business that you just started. I am open to anything as long as it's legal, folks. So just be sure to visit deaditesondeck.com and see what I have to offer. And if you don't see what you want, fill out that handy dandy form. and let me know what it is you would like to have. And it doesn't have to be horror related. If you're wanting your family put on a shirt, if you're wanting your pets put on a shirt or a hat or a tote bag or a mouse pad or whatever, I can do that as well. Okay. So, if you frequent my channel quite a bit, which I hope people do, I hope people are enjoying what I'm putting out. You may have noticed some new episode or new shows that I'm going to be have, or new segments, or whatever you want to call them. One is Celluloid Trash, which I premiered last night. And that's going to be talking about So Bad They're Good films, primarily horror films. But if you're at all interested, I have an episode out, the debut episode. I'm going to be doing another one tomorrow night. These are usually going to take place on Monday nights. We got a whole lineup of Dick's Picks. It's the final Dick's Picks this coming week, folks, on Tuesday. And then another stream will be sliding into that spot on July the 15th. That is going to be Horror Fandom. It's a way of life, or Horror Fandom, a way of life. And we're going to be talking about horror conventions. And as I said in the description, this show is not for the fair weather horror fan. Although the fair weather horror fan is welcome to come in there and watch that stream. I'm not going to say that you can't come in there. But this is for the hardcore horror fan, that literally horror is a way of life for them. And so on this first episode, I'm going to be talking about horror conventions in particular, and why us hardcore horror fans keep going back time after time after time and year after year after year, even though the landscape of horror conventions has drastically changed, even from when I started going to them in 2009. Actually, I went a little bit before, but my prime time of visiting horror conventions every year started in 2009. Okay. I did go to one, Cinema Wasteland, in 2004. But I didn't know the people that I know now and stuff like that. So it was just me and my brother and my sister-in-law, basically. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know, even what the landscape of horror conventions was, even back then. But my primary, serious horror convention going experiences started in 2009. So, if you're at all interested in hearing me speak about that, I'm going to try to get Chris on here with me. If he doesn't have something he's doing for his channel, I'm sure he'll be glad to join me. So hopefully it'll be me and Chris, and not just me just talking about this stuff. But we're going to be talking about a whole series of different themes for horror fandom. It's a way of life. And I would like to publicly thank Chris for planting that seed in my brain for this new series of streams that I'm going to be doing. But we do have a full lineup of Dick's Picks and Cannon Fodder. They're all messed up. Hopefully me and Candace can throw in a Friday Foolish there at the end of the week. And you guys and gals have cast your votes. I did have to flip a coin for Sunday night's watch along. The Saturday night's watch along, the winner was Edge of the Axe. That's going to be starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. Sunday's watch along, this is going to be the last watch along on a Sunday, unless attendance picks up or many people start coming to me and saying, "Hey, Dana, why'd you stop doing the Sunday watch alongs?" Well, the reason why I did is because it did not seem to be a popular thing. People were not, they simply weren't coming to them. And they weren't there live. And I know Sundays is kind of an iffy day. But, you know, I don't want to say I'm wasting my time, but I'm kind of wasting my time if I come in here and there's no interaction or there's one person in the chat. Okay. If people don't want to come to a watch along on Sunday nights, then they just don't want to come to a watch along on Sunday nights. You know, maybe they got something better to do, which I totally understand. It's summertime. People are going to be doing family things and all that stuff. So, for the foreseeable future, after this watch along weekend, they will only be on Saturdays, folks. Okay. So, but this week we're getting two of them. So Edge of the Axe is going to be Saturday starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Sunday, I had to flip a coin because we had two movies, Dirty Dancing and Just One of the Guys, that were at 38%. And I cut off voting today, this evening, and I flipped a coin. And Just One of the Guys won. So that's going to be Sunday's watch along, also starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So, what are we going to be talking about tonight? Oh, by the way, Movie Roulette is in full effect because this is a live stream. How do you play Movie Roulette? Well, all you got to do is give a $5 or more super chat during this or any other live stream, includes watch alongs. And you can pick any movie of your choosing for me to watch and do a review of on an upcoming episode of Movie Roulette. So just keep that in mind, folks. It can be any movie. Doesn't have to be a horror movie. It can be a sci-fi. It can be a comedy. It can be a drama, whatever. It can even be a movie that I said in the past I hated. Who knows? I might like it this time around. I think with all that being said, we'll go ahead and get started talking about my fave or some of my fave horror VHS covers from 1985, folks. So the first one I want to talk about is Blood Cults. And gang, you know, is this a very good movie? No. It's a cheesy movie, folks. I ain't even going to lie about it. But it's fun. All right. For me, it falls in that category of so bad it's good. But this cover art screams rent me all over the place. And I don't believe I rented it, but I may have. I'm thinking it was one that I bought later, maybe got through an Yahoo auctions or something. But you have the gloved hand holding the meat cleaver. And it says the first movie made for the home video market might just scare you to death. You've got the bright red lettering that says Blood Cult on there. You also have at the top, in the tradition of horror, legend, psycho, Halloween, Friday the 13th. It's like none of those, folks. I'm not even going to lie. But if you had never heard of this movie and you just saw this cover art, I know if I saw this cover art in my favorite video rental store, I would pick this sucker up and I would take it home. And it doesn't matter if I watch and I said, this is cheesy as hell. That cover art is what would get me to rent it. That cover art is what would get me to buy it, right? That cover art alone would get me to do a blind rental, a blind buy, but because I can't even begin to tell you how many movies that I rented and or bought just based on cover art alone. And you may say, Dana, that's foolhardy. It may very well be. It probably is. Because I got burned more than once, but it still didn't stop me from doing it because Every once in a great while, it can be one of these so bad they're good movies that you have quite a bit of nostalgia for over the years. And I ended up buying this one. Um, the cover art isn't quite as cool, but there's the original cover art, and this is the cover art that was for the new Blu-ray. And of course, I had to get it for a lot of reasons. One being nostalgia, one of the big reasons was nostalgia. And the fact that this was like I said, in my opinion, a so bad they're good movie. But I just don't think any horror fan could resist this cover art. This is something that, like I said, it screams from your video rental shelves, rent me, take me home, put me in your VCR, and watch me. Okay? Again, the marketing people for United Entertainment Pictures, they knew exactly what they were doing. They may have known that they, pretty much had a stinker of a movie. It was silly. It's audacious. It's, like I said, so bad it's good. But they knew that they didn't have a Citizen Kane here, right? So when you know that you don't have top-notch product, you don't have a Halloween, you don't have a Friday the 13th, you don't have a Psycho, you've got freaking Blood Cult. So what are you going to do with that? You're going to advertise the hell out of it. And the result is something like this. Okay. So this is one that always stood out for me from 1985. And again, folks, I know that by the time these VHS covers came out, it was past the date that many of these would have played in theaters. Now, I don't think Blood Cult played in theaters, folks. So probably when this cover art came out, it was 1985. Okay. Now, when I get to one of these others, I know there was somebody in here when I was talking about 1984 films that said one of their favorites from 1984 was this particular film that I'm going to talk about. However, I saw it in the 1985 releases, folks. Okay. So, that's why I didn't include it in the 1984, because I didn't see it in the 1984 list. I saw it in the 1985 list. So, all right. So that is Blood Cult. And the next one is one I remember from my youth, folks. And that's Fright Night. And some people might look at this on first glance and say, well, this doesn't really jump out at me. It doesn't have any red lettering or anything like that. Okay. What I like about this VHS cover art is not the house, really, with someone standing in the window, not even the title that says Fright Night, but it's how they incorporated one of the vampire's faces. And you may see other vampire faces in this. What looks like clouds or smoke or whatever that's coming up behind the house. This is what makes it one of my fave horror VHS covers from 1985. And I have quite a bit of nostalgia for this one as well, because, you get this, I don't know if I want to say warm and fuzzy feeling, but it in some cases it is. Because I remember watching this for the first time with my parents and my parents' friends, and the son of my parents' friends, who was about a year older than I was. Now, my brother and the other boys, younger brother, were deemed too young to watch Fright Night. But me and the older boy got to watch it with our parents. So I just remember going over to my parents' friend's house and them saying, "Oh, we got this movie, Fright Night." And I will never forget this movie. I mean, this is from there then on. This was one of my favorite vampire films. It's a lot of fun. Um, has Roddy McDowall in it. How could you not like it? Amanda Bierce is in this as well. William Ragsdale, Stephen Jeffries as evil, and I just this is your quintessential mid 80s film or quintessential 1980s film. It has a little bit of comedy in it, it has the horror in it. And I will never forget Stephen Jeffries saying to William Ragsdale's character of Charlie Brewster, "Oh, you're so cool, Brewster." I mean, I just thought that stuff was just the coolest of the cool whenever I was a kid. And so that nostalgia has carried over into my adult life. And like I've said before, I just turned 49 last month. And movies like Fright Night will make me feel like a kid all over again. But what also makes me feel like a kid all over again is getting to go back and look at these VHS covers that really stood out for me over the years. Even though I did not rent this one, my parents' friends rented it. I remember seeing the VHS cover. And, I know this was in the time where you would take the box, the VHS box, up to the counter at the video rental store, and they would give you a clear plastic case with the movie in it. But for some reason, I'm thinking that I saw this cover art. So it's possible that maybe my memory's a little muddy and maybe they bought it as opposed to renting it. But back in those days, VHS was outrageously expensive. You're talking about $100 or more for one VHS tape, right? It would blow kids' minds now. But that's the way it was back in the day. But this is quintessential 80s VHS horror artwork. And it's artwork that I will never, ever forget. I mean, it gets in your brain and it sticks in there. Now, I was going to show you guys, because sometimes I like to show y'all the differences between the VHS and like Blu-rays and 4Ks that have come out. But as y'all can see here, this looks very, very similar, but more high def looking and a little bit cooler. Doesn't have the title up there. But this is the 4K steelbook of Fright Night that I got a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And you've still got the face in the middle there, one of the vampires. And it still looks as cool, if not cooler, than the VHS. But I think they were smart to go with that traditional artwork because I think that's what people remember. And of course, you have Chris Sarandon on the back there as Jerry Dandridge in vampire form. But like I said, this is what sticks with me and what has stuck with me all these years later is this artwork right here. Okay. So the next one I want to go over or show you guys and gals is the Mutilator. And this is the one that, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was that was in the 1984 stream that I did for VHS Overload. But they said their favorite VHS or one of their favorite VHS cover arts for 1984 was the Mutilator. Okay. Hey, gang, it was on my list for 1985, so that's when I'm covering it. And this is definitely one of my favorites. You have the Mutilator title in red there with the blood dripping down. You have the front cover that has people hanging on hooks or spikes or whatever you want to call it. And you have a hand there with a very large hook. And it says by sword, by pick, by axe, bye-bye. And on the back, if you were to look at the back of the VHS cover art, you see what looks to be a kid who's about to or has gotten their throat slit. And it also says our horrifying vacation was no day at the beach. But this front part here, Tom, you say, I remember the VHS, the Changeling wheelchair cover art. Yes, that is a very, very good cover art as well, Tom. Very creepy cover art. And definitely something with that one as well that would make me want to rent it. Now, I believe that I did rent the Mutilator, so it is very likely that I saw this cover art. And this cover art would be very instrumental in getting me to rent something and getting me to buy something. All right. This is a gore film through and through. Buddy Cooper knew what he was doing when he made this movie, and whoever he got to do the marketing campaign for the Mutilator, they knew exactly what they were doing. Because there is no way you could not see this cover art, being a huge horror fan, and not either want to rent or buy or whatever. Probably not buy back in those days unless you were rich, because again, the VHS, one VHS alone would be $100 or more, and your average person wasn't able to buy that. This is in the days before you could get VHS for $20, and then 10 and 5 and all that stuff. So even 20 would have been better than $100 or more. But the combination of elements on this VHS cover, like I said, of the young people hanging on spikes, the hand with the large hook, the red lettering with the blood dripping down that says the Mutilator. I mean, this is another prime example of something that screams rent me. It screams buy me. To a horror fan. Now, if you're not a horror fan, you're probably going to look at that and say, what in the heck? No, it's not going to make me want to rent it or buy it. But for a horror fan that is really into that gritty, visceral experience, this cover and others like it are going to push a lot of buttons and make you get out that wallet and either rent it or buy it if you could afford to buy it. Okay, so that is the Mutilator. The next one is Nail Gun Massacre. Oh, well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. You say that's also why I love your thumbnails. It's like an old VHS cover. Yeah, I mean, I think I was trying to go for that old vintage feel to a lot of my thumbnails, or at least a lot of my thumbnails that I've been doing lately. My intros as well, I'm trying to make them kind of vintage as well. And I hope this cover does not get me in trouble, because that woman's boob is almost coming out. But I remember this cover art as well. You've got the tagline, cheaper than a chainsaw. You've got this woman being menaced by a person dressed in a motorcycle helmet and motorcycle jacket, and I've got a nail gun. And also, instead of having an eye in nail, you have actual, a cartoon version of a nail that's replaced the eye in nail. And then Massacre, of course, is in that bright red, bloody lettering. Okay. There are two to three different versions of this cover art for Nail Gun Massacre, but I believe this is the original cover art, and it's the one that I think I like the best. And again, Nail Gun Massacre is cheesy. To me, it's so bad, it's good. And I could watch it anytime. Somebody that's not a hardcore horror fan might say, "What in the heck? What are you talking about? This is horrible." But I really enjoy Nail Gun Massacre for what it is. And this again is cover art that screams rent me. It screams buy me. It screams take me home and put me in your VCR and watch me. Just like a lot of these films that I've been talking about or have been talking about during VHS Overload. And some of you may be thinking, well, what about some of these 70s covers? Yeah, those are some very good ones as well. However, I have been covering the 80s. If there's a clamoring for me to cover 70s, I'll be glad to cover 70s as well. Or maybe even 90s, if there seems to be an interest in 1990s VHS cover art. But again, Nail Gun Massacre, this is very good artwork. Again, whoever did their marketing for Nail Gun Massacre, even though if they had any indication that they had a stinker of a movie on their hands, this was genius marketing on their part. And it gets people to rent. It gets them to, have watch parties. I mean, we call them watch parties now, but, this is the type of movie where you get a bunch of friends together, go in a friend's basement, and watch crap like Nail Gun Massacre because it's fun, right? And because you had a genius marketing campaign behind this. Okay. So, oh yeah, Tom, you say you remember the VHS cover of Videodrome? Yeah. See, there's so many good ones. Sometimes I have a hard time whittling these down to just a handful of them to talk about on here too. All right, so the next one is going to be for Phenomena, which I like Phenomena. I like the actual cover art for it. But this cover art for the alternate version of Phenomena called Creepers, even though I figured out that Creepers is the cut version of Phenomena, and I don't really want to watch it again, but this cover art for Creepers, for the version called Creepers, is what got me to rent this back in the day. So this is the Media Home Entertainment version of Creepers. Okay, so you have Jennifer Connelly's character there with half of her face looking rotted. You have her holding out her hand like this, and there's all these insects. Okay, and it says it will make your skin crawl. I didn't even really know who Dario Argento was at the time, folks, but this cover art was what made me rent this. I saw this in my local video store, and I was like, there is no way I'm not renting this. And I didn't know any better because I didn't realize that it was a cut version of Phenomena, right? So yeah, this is an excellent marketing campaign, and Creepers and Phenomena, both versions, they're not bad movies, but this is still genius marketing. I could not resist something called Creepers with this image on there. There's no way. And it even says from Dario Argento, the Master of Terror. But back in those days, I didn't know Dario Argento from George Romero, from Stephen King, or what. I had no idea. I just knew that this was a kick-ass cover, VHS cover, and I was going to rent it. Of course, back in those days, I had to ask my parents. I was like, "Can we get this?" Because one, I didn't have any money, and two, I was underage to be getting movies like this. And again, I don't want y'all to think my parents were bad parents. They were not bad parents. They just knew what I could handle and what I couldn't handle, right? So I didn't get told no on too many movies like this. All right. So that is Creepers, aka Phenomena. And the next one, I remember my family renting, and there's no way we didn't rent it because of this cover here. This is for Reanimator. And that tagline, Herbert West has a very good head on his shoulders and another one in a dish on his desk. And that image of Jeffrey Combs as Herbert West holding up the syringe full of the Reanimator agent, the head in the dish, and then the headless body coming up behind Herbert West in this cover art. And then you've got, the test tubes and beakers and all that stuff around there. This was another one that screamed, rent me. You also had the bright green lettering. You can't really see that as well on this older VHS, but just kind of try to visualize it in your mind. This is a complete package, folks. Herbert West looking like the mad scientist that he is with the Reanimator agent. He's got a head in a dish on a desk. And then you've got a headless body coming after him, or like coming up behind him. It's just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't say that this really would scare anybody. It might scare some people, and that's okay. But it definitely piqued my attention and got me and my family to rent this. And it was just fun. It was fun for the whole family. Except my mom. I don't know if my mom was real thrilled with Reanimator, but I do remember that me and my dad in particular loved it and had a lot of fun with it. My brother may have watched it too. So, but it's like an old 1930s movie poster. Yeah, Tom, it kind of is. Kind of is. So that is that's Reanimator. Another one, which is just timely because we just had the 4th of July, right? And Return of the Living Dead takes place on 4th of July, in and around 4th of July, I should say. I always loved the cover art, the VHS cover art for Return of the Living Dead, because you've got these two zombies here, and you've got the gravestone that says the Return of the Living Dead. You've got a zombie punk coming up out of the ground with spray paint, as if he's spray painted the Return of the Living Dead on there. Some versions of this cover art said they're back from the dead and ready to party, which I always like that tagline. Yes, fantastic poster as well. You are correct, Tom. I'd love to have an original of this poster. Probably won't ever get it because it's probably super expensive. But we have we have that bright red lettering. We have the green colored zombies. Um, we have more zombies in the background, but we have the two hero zombies here at the forefront. And then, of course, the one coming out of the ground that's appearing to spray paint the title, The Return of the Living Dead, on the gravestone. And this was genius marketing as well. This is another one that screams rent me, that screams buy me. I did recently get the 4K of this one in the last year or two. And I still remember, this isn't VHS, but I still remember one of the DVD collector's editions that had glow in the dark zombies on it. I'm a sucker when it comes to any, glow in the dark stuff. But I think when they switched over to Blu-ray and then, of course, 4K, I think they nixed the glow in the dark zombies. If somebody can prove me wrong on that, be sure to shout that out in the chat, okay? Or comment later if you can't be in here live. But some people might say, well, that's Christmas colors, red and green. But it definitely doesn't look like Christmas on there, right, folks? The red and green is a stark contrast with one another, and it really makes these zombies pop off of that VHS cover. The red lettering seems to pop off of the VHS cover. And it's just something that you can't ignore. Covers like this, you cannot ignore. And again, the marketing geniuses behind this knew exactly what they were doing with this one as well. All right, so the next one is for the stuff, which I know there is other cover art, in particular cover art that has a head and the stuff coming out of the eyes and stuff. That is cool as well, but I also really like this. This might seem to be a little plainer than some of the newer cover art. And it does have the taglines, hard to read on this image, but it says, "Are you eating it or is it eating you?" And you can see it looks like people coming out of the stuff here and just reaching out like they're screaming for help. And then, of course, you've got the refrigerator open in the background and all of that. Now, some people, again, may say, well, this one is sort of plain, Dana. There's no bright red lettering or anything like that on it. And no, it's not. But I think they were going more for the colors of the stuff, which the stuff is pretty much, it's white. It looks like ice cream or yogurt or something like that. But I still like it. I mean, this VHS is obviously very worn and stuff. I'm sure if you had looked at a brand new copy of it, it would look even cooler. But I like the minimalist take on this, with the focal point being the people that seem to be drowning in the stuff. It's creepy. It's subtle, a little bit more subtle than some of the other covers that we've looked at tonight. And it's one that definitely sticks with you, as does the more current one, which has the head with the stuff coming out of the eyes and the mouth and stuff. All right. So we got a couple more because I had a total of 10 this time. So the next one is Hard Rock Zombies. And Vestron Video put this out back in the day, folks. And Canon also released this one. Now, I must be totally honest about this. Hard Rock Zombies was not one I rented. But had I seen this in my video rental days, I definitely would have rented it. Now, is Hard Rock Zombies a great film? No. Again, it's not a great film, but it's one of those so bad it's good, in my opinion. And I love the way you've got the zombie hands coming up out of the ground. You have some skulls. You have a hand that's grasping a guitar. Um, and it says you can't keep a good band down. So you're led to believe by this cover art that a band more than likely dies and comes back as zombies and they're still playing, right? They're getting the band back together, just like the Blues Brothers. But again, this is kind of cartoonish looking, but it still works. It really, really works because you have the words hard rock that are in white, and then you have zombies that's all in red with the blood dripping again, which is a great effect. And it's been used on a lot of VHS horror cover art. Um, and this, had I seen it, like I said, had I seen this in my video rental store back in the day, I definitely would have rented it based on that cover art alone. Now, I may have watched it and said, this is crap, you know, but the cover art is fantastic. So, we got one more, and y'all might be a little confused by this one because it's very minimalist. It's kind of like the stuff one, even more minimalist than the stuff one. But what I like about this is there's infinitely something creepy about this cover art for Warning Sign, because you have bright red lettering that says Warning Sign on black background, and then you have that creepy, to me it's creepy, red biohazard symbol. And just by looking at the words Warning Sign in bright red letters and that biohazard symbol in bright red on a stark black background, you know something really bad's going to happen in this movie. You don't know unless you read the back of the box, right? But there's something about that creeps me out, but also screams rent me at the same time. Now, again, this was not one that I rented. This is one that I watched at a later date, after the heyday of my video rental days. But again, had I saw this in my video rental store, that alone, that image alone would have made me pick it up, flip it over, at least see what it was about. And more than likely, I would have rented it regardless of if I'd read the back of it or not, just based on this cover art alone. Okay. So, had a couple of minimalist designs in there, but that they still work. Sometimes you can overdo it, and sometimes it's better to be a little minimalist with stuff, because sometimes I think if you make cover art too busy, it's going to really detract from what you're trying to say with the cover art. Tommy say it's like the Chiller cover art, very simple but creepy. Yeah, exactly. And I think that works at least 50 to 55% of the time. But you got to know what you're doing, and you got to know which ones would benefit from a minimalist bit of artwork and which need a little bit more kick to them. And evidently, these people that did the one for the stuff and the one that whoever did the one for Warning Sign, they knew that, okay, we're going to be real minimal with the design elements in this. And it worked. In my opinion, it really, really worked. But I've been on here a total of almost 50 minutes. And I showed all 10 of these Fave Horror VHS covers from 1985. When I do one of these again, of course, it'll be a Fave Horror VHS covers of 1986. So y'all stay tuned for that. They're setting off fireworks yet again on a Sunday night when people got to go to work tomorrow. But they don't care, right? So anyways, Tom, I want to thank you for hanging out in the chat with me tonight. For those of you that didn't feel comfortable getting into the chat, but were watching, because I saw people, coming in and out throughout this stream, and I appreciate each and every one of you guys and gals that came in here. I also want to thank in advance anybody that may watch this on the replay, because hey, you guys and gals some of you might be busy when I'm doing these live. And so if you watch it on a replay, thank you, thank you, thank you. I also want to remind everybody that there's a lot of ways that you can support me and support the channel, and they don't cost you a dime. Okay. One of these ways is by subscribing. If you haven't already subscribed and you're interested in the content I'm putting out, hey, it costs you nothing to subscribe. I'm not going to come to your door and try to convert you or anything else. So it's safe. It's safe, folks, if you want to subscribe. And chances are I probably won't even know if you unsubscribe later, right? But I'm trying to my next goal is to get up to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm about 945 subscribers, so I don't have too many more to get to 1,000. And if you guys and gals can help me get to my goal, me and Candace will do a little cosplay for you. I will do Cheryl from The Evil Dead, and Candace is going to do Mrs. Roper from Three's Company. So if you want to see us do some cool cosplay, let's help me get to 1,000 subscribers. So you can subscribe. You can hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming content I've got coming out. Hopefully, unless YouTube fouls up somewhere along the way. You can also like any of these videos and streams that really stand out for you. And yet another way that doesn't cost you or the person you share my channel with one thin dime is share with friends and family members that you think would enjoy the content I'm putting out. And those are all ways that you can support me and the channel, and it doesn't cost you a thing. Okay? So I always like to try to bring that to the forefront by saying, I know everybody's not rolling in money. There's bills to pay and groceries to get and all of that. But there are still ways that you can help me out, and they don't cost you anything. So anyway, with all that being said, as always, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a fantastic rest of your Sunday night, folks. And I'll see everybody next time.